Hello, and welcome to today's webinar on launching a people analytics strategy, sponsored by TrenData. The agenda for today's meeting will go as follows. We'll start out with a brief overview of the company TrenData. Next, we'll talk a little bit about the analytics market. Then we'll move into the four-step strategy on how to launch a people analytics strategy. Then we'll spend a little bit of time talking about SaaS and cloud technology today, and we'll follow that up with a demonstration of the TrenData solution. After that, we'll end up with questions and conclude with an offer for those of you attending today's presentation. A little bit about TrenData. TrenData is a cloud-based platform company that provides organizations the ability to generate advanced and predictive analytics by unifying and trending metrics from multiple HR software applications. Our ability to bring in data from multiple sources onto our platform and provide robust analytics can then allow you to do some modeling and have input on future scenarios for your company. We are located in Plano, Texas, which, if you're not familiar with our city, is just a little bit north of Dallas. The founders of the company are myself, Tom McKeown. I am the CEO, and Mon Hamden is the head of our board and is the former founder of HR Smart, the leading talent management company. I'll start out with a little market data on the analytics market, particularly the people analytics market. Lisa Rowan, who was a leading analyst for International Data Corporation, IDC, recently discussed a survey that her company did that found that the typical corporation has on average 23 different HR/talent systems. That's a lot, and I like to point out to people, if you only have about 10, then there's someone out there that has 50. That's a lot of systems crossing HRIS, talent, and whatever. And what they found was that these particular vendors who offer these systems were good at generating metrics and reports within their own application, but did not have very good capabilities to link in with other applications to provide any kind of reporting or anything that goes cross-platform. And as we move to another analyst, Josh Bersin at Bersin by Deloitte, he cited that it's really in bringing together all sorts of data sources where companies can get creative and start tackling these pressing people challenges. Fairsail, another company in the analytics business, mentioned that 82% of HR leaders cited in one of their reports point out that people analytics is a very important part of their business. So the strategy, that blueprint that you can follow if you're looking to launch a people analytics strategy, we put one together here that encompasses 4 parts. The first phase is to establish the right metrics for your organization. Now, adding on to that, you might first ask, what are metrics? Well, metrics is a particular data point that's a snapshot in time. It tells you where you are today with that particular subject. Some sample people metrics are turnover, the rate at which your company is losing people, the cost to hire individuals, the average salary at your company. These are all individual people metrics that HR uses quite a great deal. Metrics can be represented a number of ways. Here's a number of different metrics. Some are very unidimensional, really have only one factor involved, such as, absences from a company, the number of employees, the amount of days it takes to fill a position, and thus can be represented very easily with just a number. Some other metrics, which might be a little more complex, might require some sort of graphical representation. As you can see down here, we have a source of hire to the lower left, which encompasses a number of different places where companies hire from and is broken up into a multi-component graph. We can also have metrics that represent data in buckets, such as tenure and professional development. as to what your performance score is and whether you're in development or not, and how long you've been with the company. You can have an average tenure, or you can look at it in buckets such as this. So a number of different ways of representing these metrics to make it for the user most easy to understand. Now, phase one in establishing your metrics, it's very important to review these metrics with the business side of the house, particularly the C-suite. It doesn't make a lot of sense to you to plan a people analytics strategy around a bunch of metrics that the business part of the organization doesn't consider relevant. You might be in an organization that pays very little attention to performance scores, or you might have an organization that assumes a great deal of turnover, and just tracking that overall metric is not as important to them as possibly digging down and finding out what type of turnover they have. So it's very important before you launch any people analytics strategy around metrics is to ensure that there is alignment between the metrics you're going to use and that they are relevant to the other parts of the business. The next step is, once you've established what the metrics are you are going to track, is to define the formula that goes into the metric. Turnover is a common one that basically is the same in each representation. It's a number of people who leave the company over the number of employees in the company. But there are some organizations that formulate this differently. It might be the number of people over the amount of employees minus new hires, or it might be averaged out over a quarter. So it's important to make sure that it's a consistent formula throughout your organization, and that everybody who's going to be tracking the particular metric agrees on the formula. Also, you want to look at what the drill down is for the particular metric. So for example, you might be tracking overall turnover, but what might be more important to the company is being able to break it down into such categories as voluntary turnover, people who leave on their own, and involuntary turnover, where people are dismissed from the company. Being able to identify and track based on these relevant subgroups is also very important when establishing your metrics as the baseline of your people analytics strategy. So once you've established your metrics, the formulas, and gotten alignment with everybody, the next step is to find out where is the data that you're going to use to calculate your metrics. And as we mentioned earlier in the data from IDC and Lisa Rowan, the data could be spread out through a bunch of systems throughout your organization. But we have found, though, that often about 70% of that data is usually located in your HRIS or a payroll system you have one. Basically, whichever system you have which houses the main bulk of your people data. There are a lot of other, as we mentioned, HR and talent systems. You have your talent management systems, your time and attendance, and all others. Often companies will process data in these systems, but will feed them back up to the HRIS. So I think you can start with your strategy is to find out what you have in your HRIS first, and then start to look at your other systems and how they would come in and complement that data moving forward. Now, there's usually two distinct ways to input data into an analytics solution or an analytics platform, so you can start generating the proper metrics and eventually analytics. The first is to put everything into a single file format and upload that into your system. This is kind of more of a one-time file data load. You do it on a regular basis to provide the information you need. But you might also want to investigate integrating directly with the source system and pulling the data on more of a real-time basis. Kind of what we found as a best practice is clients like to use the file upload system in the beginning for the first go-around or in year one, mainly because this helps them clean the data and formalize the process and as to what's actually going into the system. Once you've smoothed all this out, it usually takes a couple of cycles. You know what data is coming in, you can assure that the data is reliable and how often you want it brought into the system. that's when companies start looking at when an integration would be more feasible, because it's bringing in a clean feed. And at that point, you can make it more real time, and the data can be refreshed as quickly as you want. It's important when looking at an analytic system or platform to find one that provides both the ability to do manual file uploads as well as integrations to your popular systems. And usually you would look for a system that has an open API that can build these connections. As you can see, this is just a quick look at the TrenData system, which we'll show a little later. We have a file upload, which we call our TUF, and then we also build integrations to the popular systems available in the marketplace. So now that you've established your metrics, you have all the data in to populate the metrics. The next step in the people analytics strategy is to trend those metrics into analytics. So if we go back to what our definition is of a metric being a snapshot in time, that's 1 point. A metric is when you then go and trend those metrics over time to find out whether it's monthly, biweekly, quarterly. Start seeing what those particular metrics are showing as you move forward and looking back on your organization. Because if you think about it, you have your one snapshot in time, as I'm showing on this slide. You might have February, which shows that turnover is X, located, represented on a graphic. But is that good or bad? So say your turnover is, 15%. Is that a good number or a bad number? Well, if you're able to trend that over a number of months, you might see that turnover has started to tick up. So if it was 12 the month before and 10 the month before, then you might have a problem because something has happened and your turnover has started to rise. On the contrary, if the month before it was 20 and the month before that it was 25, you might be doing something right that's driving turnover down. This ability to trend and show an analytical approach to your metrics does a lot of things. First of all, it provides the context that you need to determine whether where you're at today is a good position that's improving or a bad position that's deteriorating. And once you're able to indicate this direction, you can start identifying how you can fix the problem. We'll show in a couple of minutes here in the actionable section is then you can start pairing up events to understand why things happen. Why did your trend start going up? And then again, how can you change it? What actions can you take? Which brings us to the fourth step in the strategy, enabling actionable insights from your trended analytics. So again, going back, you've got the metrics, which are trended into analytics. And then once they're trended into analytics, you have the ability to interpret or formulate them to get sort of predictive scenarios of what's happening and what can be done to change that. So if we go back to our trended graph, we see, first of all, we've got our past time period where we've trended our particular metric over a series of months. Now I can also start aligning events up with this trend and see maybe why things started to go the way they did. So we had turnover reasonably high in July, and then it started to go down a little. At that very same time, we implemented a policy of letting employees take every other Friday off during the summer months, and that did a lot to increase tenure. Hopefully that was a good thing, and performance didn't suffer as well. But then as it started to tick up towards the end here, we noticed that might have correlated to an implementation of a new benefits program. Perhaps that wasn't as popular with the employees as we thought it might be. Maybe it took some benefits away. Anyway, that's something to investigate. And then also being able to then take what you've learned from the past and apply it into the future. So although we've seen kind of an uptick in this particular metric, as we span it out to the next couple of months, we can see it does start to go down. But we are anticipating then the summer months it's going to go up again because we know we have an event coming where we're going to relocate one of our larger plants, and that's going to displace a lot of workers. So there might be a lot of turnover here where people are not interested in moving to the new location. So once you see the trend line and it's going in a particular direction, the next step is to see, is there anything you can do to affect it? So do you have any kind of modeling capabilities that might allow you to play around with future scenarios? So here we've got our turnover metric again, which is arcing downward a little bit, but maybe we want to improve about that even more. So what are the things we can do to affect turnover? Well, there's a couple we've got possibly to look at. We could say perhaps we give everybody an increase in pay and that will keep them around. It's an expensive solution if it doesn't work. If it keeps performers, then it's a good investment. Maybe there's some things around company culture we can fix. We've noticed we've had a policy of letting people start to work from home. Maybe if we increase that, that will help the scenario out a little bit, or possibly also investing a little bit more in professional development of our high performers might not only decrease turnover overall, but particularly on those high performers are our most valuable asset in the company. So in summary, in the 4-point plan, what have we learned? Well, first off, we learned that you have to start with a foundation of solid metrics that are agreed upon by everybody and well-defined. Then we have to be able to inventory and find the supporting data that will go into calculating those metrics and being able to bring it all into one single platform. Third, then we have to be able to convert those metrics into analytics to provide context as to where are we going with our decisions and our population, and do we have the organization we need to be successful going forward. And then finally, taking these analytics, lining them up and interpreting them for action to take those proper steps. So if things are getting better, we can make them get it better even quickly, or we can correct anything that's going in the wrong direction. So quick word after the strategy, I did want to talk just a little bit about SaaS and cloud technology before we go into the demonstration. I was always struck by this quote. About 14 years ago, I was working for a company that Expert City that sold GoToMeeting, which was eventually bought by Citrix. And I remember going to a presentation from another SaaS company, Salesforce, and they brought up a client, CompuCom, a big service provider here in Dallas. And CompuCom had just bought Salesforce after getting rid of Siebold, which was an on-premise solution. And this was a big endorsement of SaaS and cloud technology. When the CompuCom executive said when they had Siebold, it took them 8 months to implement it, but when they switched over to Salesforce, they were using the Salesforce solution before their first payment was even cleared. So they reduced the implementation time to a very negligible amount, and which is really one of the benefits that SaaS and cloud technology promise to bring to the marketplace. I feel like we've kind of taken a step back. I was reading a consulting report from Panorama, their 2017 enterprise software report, and they did a survey of 342 CIOs, which showed that the average implementation time for ERP systems is back up to 17 months. So it seems like we're going backwards on the promise of what SaaS and cloud technology promise to bring to the marketplace. So when we put together our solution at TrenData, we wanted a very specific value proposition. And it revolved somewhat around that last statement. First of all, we don't want you to have mega months of implementation. So we put together a solution, which I'll show you, has a very easy and very quick data input. Second, it's a system that's very easy to use. You're never more than 2 clicks from your eventual destination. And third, it's easy to interpret. Goes along with the actionable part of the analytics strategy, in that you see it and you know exactly what to do with the information. We call this our 3 pillars of ease: easy input, easy to use, and easy to interpret. So with that, I want to launch off and do a quick demonstration of the TrenData solution. So I'll bring up our main dashboard here where you would log in to get to the TrenData solution. And you can see it's populated by the series of metrics we talked about in the presentation. So as I said, there's some that are unidimensional, others that are represented by various graphic displays. As you can see, underneath each, there are 3 buttons. One will allow you to drill down on that particular metric. The second one will allow you to trend it to analytics. And the third will allow you to go into a predictive scenario if one was created for that particular metric to see how you can improve on the analytics. So let me take a look first and just show you how to drill down. So if I drill down on this particular metric, as you can see, average absences globally was about 3.5, but this drill down version shows me what it looks like in the various geographies. You know, a little higher than average in the US, a little lower than average in India and Germany. I can also drill down according to gender or according to department, which might show me that some departments, particularly operations and finance, seem to be higher than others. If you want to get even more granular with the drill down, you can open up the filter tab. And if I stay on departments, I can look at possibly all of my departments just solely in one location, the US. And then it shows me that, you know, I have a few areas in the US, particularly operations in the US and finance in the US, which seem to be higher than normal. So the ability to drill down on metrics is very important. If we go back to the main dashboard and look at another metric, we've got turnover. Now you see this is represented in a donut graph, which shows me that I had 9.4% turnover last month. Now again, is that good or bad? Well, we can go to our analytics view and check that out. So as I click on the analytics button, it's immediately going to bring me to a trending of my turnover for the last couple of months, actually the last year. And I notice a few aberrations here. There seemed to be a big spike in June to July where turnover went up nearly 3% and actually continued on a rise through towards the end of the year. So I might want to know what caused that. So if I check my events overlay, it tells me that's really when the Bureau of Labor Statistics announced that the labor market was at full capacity in the United States. So possibly employees were feeling a little more market-driven, wanted to go out and check, see what better offers there were out there, and the company may not have been quick to respond, and we lost a few good employees during that time. So you see it's continued to click up, and at the beginning of the year, the company decided to take action and see if we can improve our recruiting efforts by implementing an applicant tracking solution. This possibly started bringing in better candidates as turnover started to go down between March and April, but then ticked back up again, and possibly would like to see if that trend is going to continue. So in that case, we would move from the analytics to the predictive analytics view, which will show the last 6 months that we were talking about, and then where are things going forward from there. So if I do a regression analysis, I can see that even though we started to go down at the end of, we started to go down in turnover towards the March-April time frame, something has affected things that are going to keep the turnover on a gradual rise going into the future. So possibly there's some action there we need to take to find out how we can improve that. So in that case, what we can do is scroll down to our data view below. Right now it's on the individual, showing all the people that are in this view, but I can also bring up a summary view, which will show all of the summarized analytics and which ones we could possibly affect that might affect turnover. And as you can see over to the left here, I have a modeling button, and when I connect on that, it's going to take the future months here and make them changeable. So these gold months, I can now go in and start changing the what I'm paying people, how many people I'm starting to leave at let work from home, and professional development. Let's start with the salary. So what would happen if I gave people, say on average, about a 3% raise? as you can see, that didn't do a lot for my turnover. It pretty much stayed at about the same level. So I'm going to reset that back to what I have and then go and look at what would happen if I increased the amount of people I'm letting work remotely from up it by about 8%. So if I move that, that did have a little bit of an effect on my turnover. Started to go down a little. What if I start investing a little bit more in professional development, particularly with my high performers? So if I move that up where it's at a paltry amount of almost less than 3%, if I start putting 20% of them in, you can see then it starts to really take a trip down. And if I show that regression analysis again, it's going to show that I've done a little modeling and had a real good effect on reducing turnover in the organization. So this modeling can be very powerful because there are some things you can affect directly and some that are a result of decisions that you're going to be made. So that's a quick look at the modeling. There's one last feature I would like to show. Sometimes you're not quite sure of the view that you want to look at, even though it's very simple to move through the two-click process from drill down to analytics to predictive. If you want to do a quick natural language search to find the type of data you're looking for, what I can type in here, if I want to just say what's the best hire source I have, I can just type it in a Google-like search, and when I go ahead and click the search, it's going to bring up my source of hire button. But since I was looking for the best source, when I click on that, it's actually going to go right to the drill down of the source of hire. And it'll show me my best sources in the US are referrals and LinkedIn, but over in Germany, it's almost exclusively LinkedIn. So another feature that can help you bypass and get to the right type of data that you're looking for. Now the final thing I wanted to point out, and that gets back to the ability to easily bring data into the system. So if I go to my data sources button here, as you can see, it's the same screen I represented in the presentation. I have a number of different integrations that I can build, and these are just a sample. We can pretty much build any data source out there. But for quick ability to get up and going with the system, we've constructed what we call our TUF, the TrenData Universal File Format. And with this, it brings a standard file upload that has all of these components in it to help construct a dashboard similar to the one that, or identical to the one that I've been showing in the demonstration. I need only go out and find the particular TUF that I'm looking for. And when I open it, I just click Save, and in a matter of seconds, I've imported new data into my system. And all of the data on the dashboard will be updated as of that last file upload, which will be indicated up here. So again, easy data upload, easy data input, easy to use, easy to interpret. Those are our three pillars of ease with TrenData. So at this point, I'm going to go back to the presentation and open it up for questions. If anybody in the audience, I did get a few questions texted into me, so I'll answer those and see if anybody else has anything that they'd like to discuss. The first one is there any limit to the number of data sources that you can bring into the system? Well, as I pointed out there, no, there's no limit. It's dependent on how many integrations you want to build, or if you want to put them all into the file upload format. But there is no limit on the amount of data slices and sources we can bring into the system. One on the question on the analytics, can you show different time spans for the analytics? Yes, as I neglected to point out, this is kind of the out-of-the-box version that I've shown right here. We do have an enterprise version of the software where we can build custom metrics and give the ability to build time frames that can be built to your specification. So absolutely, we can show different time spans for the solution. Last one was actually more of a research one, is how did we arrive at the metrics we use for the demonstration? Well, actually, for our out-of-the-box version of our solution, we did a number of surveys over the last year with companies and organizations asking what the most critical metrics are that they need. And we decided to build our base system around those metrics. So it was a lot of heavy surveying. We also did some research with SHRM as well, so to come up with those 13 metrics. But as again, if we go into an enterprise deployment, we're able to configure new metrics and even ones that are more specific to the organization. So, okay, well, those are all the questions. I would like to finish with an offer. Anybody who's attended this webinar, we'd like to offer a free 90-day trial of our solution at no charge. We won't build any integrations, but we'll allow you to use the tough file upload that we use today. It'll give you the advanced analytics, the drill down and the analytics. The predictive part of the solution is something that we have to come in and configure. So we don't offer that in the 90-day trial, but you'll be able to get everything else. We don't require a contract, but we would ask you to sign a non-disclosure just to protect your data and us. And we'll give you free support for the entire time of the trial. So just email us at marketing@TrenData.com and use this promotional code here, capital TD-6-2017, and we'll set you up with a site and get you going and hopefully get you hooked on our solution. So that being the case, no more questions. I would like to thank everybody for your time, and if you have any questions, even other than just wanting to get the free trial, please send it to marketing@TrenData.com, and we'll answer questions, whether it's about our solution or the analytics market in general, or any inquiries you think relevant for our company. So thank you again, and hope to see you at future TrenData events and hopefully as a client someday. Thank you.